What's up, everybody? Welcome to Heresy Financial. My name is Joe Brown, and today we are looking at the fact that central banks have gotten bullish on gold again. We all know that for the last couple of years, central banks have been purchasing lots of gold. 2018, 2019 were record years, and 2020, obviously, things changed a little bit because governments were having to deal with pandemic outbreaks in their country, spending a lot of money on that, so they had pulled back their gold purchases. But as of October, that has turned around, and we're seeing the trends go back to what they were before, where central banks are driving the price of gold again by purchasing it, net purchasers of gold once again instead of net sellers like they were for the last couple of months. Ready? Let's dive in. It might come as a little bit of a surprise to anybody who this is new information for, but central banks around the world are actually pretty bullish on gold. Now, this is their actions. Their actions are that they're bullish on gold. At the same time, they print a bunch of paper money and tell everybody in their country, hey, use this instead. We're going to be buying and storing gold for ourselves, but here's some paper for you to use. So I always like to say, watch what somebody does, not what they say. Now, we all know that, China and Russia, those are the big ones that a lot of people always talk about. And China has been silent on its gold purchases for a while. And that's not abnormal. China goes through long periods of time where they don't report any gold purchases. And then all of a sudden they'll come out and say, hey, we've got a lot more gold. So they've just been purchasing it that whole time without telling anybody. So they're in a period right now where they're not updating or announcing any gold purchases. Russia has historically been a big buyer of gold. And this year, again, like I said in the intro, just due to the pandemic, they stopped purchases of gold in April. Now, Q3 of this year, which was July, August, September, these 3 months, central banks have been net sellers. And one of the big sales that caused central banks on net to become sellers was Uzbekistan. And Uzbekistan had to sell a lot of their gold in order to pay for some of the things they needed to pay for. They switched around. They're back to being a net buyer. Now, interestingly, Uzbekistan not only are they a net buyer again, but recently they just announced they are trying to basically cause gold to be currency in their country. They just announced this new, it's kind of like the size of a credit card, the size of a payment card. And inside this card, you can see in this picture here, there is a small gold bar. Now, a 1 ounce coin of gold is a good way to store a lot of wealth in a small amount of space. But in today's day and age, it's not very usable for transactions. In America, $1,800 for a gold coin. You're never gonna really go on a grocery trip and spend $1,800 on your weekly or your biweekly grocery trip. Now, that problem gets compounded even more when you go to a country like Uzbekistan, where the cost of living is a third or a fourth of what it is in the States. And that means that gold coin, that 1 ounce gold coin, would be worth, 3 or 4 times as much in terms of purchasing power for somebody living there. And so it's not really usable. A 1 ounce coin is not really usable for day-to-day transactions. And so the Uzbekistan central bank is trying to change this by issuing these cards that have gold in them. And these gold bars are tiny relative to a 1 ounce coin. So you can get these cards with either 5 grams, 10 grams, 25 grams, and I think it goes up to 50 grams worth of gold, which in US dollars is anywhere in between $300 US and $3,000 US at the current price of gold per gram. So that's a lot more user-friendly in terms of, having some sort of transaction where you want to buy or sell something. Those amounts are a lot closer to what people would be buying and selling things for, at least for relatively large purchases. You're still not going to buy a candy bar with that, but you could buy a TV or pay your rent with it. Now, Uzbekistan is not the only country that has people and institutions that really enjoy and really like and really value highly gold. In fact, most countries in Southeast Asia, in Central Asia, have an extremely high view of gold, and the gold markets are extremely liquid, and regular everyday people store their wealth in gold. Now, for people who live in the West, that might be a little bit foreign because people who live in Western countries don't typically, on average, the populations typically don't store their wealth in gold. But as fiat currency continues to decline and the purchasing power gets destroyed faster and faster and faster, either that will change or there will be a massive wealth transfer from these countries who don't prepare, the populations don't prepare, to the countries who for thousands of years, these populations still and have always stored their wealth in gold. And again, like I said, it's not just Uzbekistan. If you look at even the central bank in Italy recently issued a statement on why they hold gold. And they mentioned its scarcity, its historical hedge against adversity. They even cited the hedge against inflation that gold provides, and the fact that there's no counterparty risk if they store it themselves. If obviously there's counterparty risk if you have somebody else storing it for you, but as a person, an individual, a company, a central bank, if you store it yourself, there's no counterparty risk. There you have it. You're not relying on anybody else to pay you something like you are with something like a bond. And they're not the first central bank to come out and say stuff like this either. The Netherlands central bank, for example, this was, I believe it was last year, sometime towards the end of 2019 when they released this statement, but I'll throw it up on the screen here. They basically just said that gold is the perfect piggy bank system. It's the anchor of trust for the financial system. If the system collapses, the gold stock can serve as a basis to build it up again. And it bolsters confidence in the stability of their balance sheet, creates a sense of security. And so central banks all around the world are very bullish on gold in terms of why they hold it themselves. Many populations, especially in poorer countries around the world compared to some Western countries, populations hold a lot of gold. And so it's only a matter of time as currencies continue to depreciate more and more and more and don't go as far when you're trying to buy things. See, the purchasing power goes away. These trends will continue to accelerate because as that starts to happen, people start to look for alternatives. And the very act of people looking for alternatives to store their wealth in other things makes that the dumping of that currency causes its purchasing power to fall faster and faster and faster. Now, it's particularly important to understand the role and the effect that central banks have on the price of gold. For the last couple of decades, whenever central banks on net are sellers of gold, you enter into a long bear market in gold. Whenever they're net buyers of gold, you enter into a long bull market on gold. It's very simple to understand why. When you want to understand why something is moving in terms of its price, you have to look at who the big money is that's buying or selling it. And central banks print money. They're the biggest money there is. And so on net, when they are net sellers or net buyers, that is what drives the price of gold. And especially as the world moves away from the dollar in particular, more and more and more money is going to be going into gold. Now, I know most of you already have your full gold positions built already, but if you're learning about this for the first time and you don't know where to start, my favorite place to start is OneGold. They make it really easy and cheap to buy gold or silver or platinum actually as well. You can use their auto investing feature so it automatically purchases, and then you can actually choose where in the world you want your allocated gold. That's really important that it's allocated because other services who store gold for you, they do it in unallocated, and so you don't actually own any gold. And so it's important that OneGold does it, and it's allocated for you, so you actually have a claim on physical gold that's allocated to you and you alone. And then whenever you want, you can just on the website itself really easily request it to be physically delivered to you once you've stored up enough. Let's say you're putting in $100 a month. Once you build up a whole ounce, let's say, you can request that a full coin just gets delivered to your doorstep. Really easy, really cost-effective way to do it. They're who I use and I recommend, and you can use my link in the description below, get $5 free towards your new account. As always, really appreciate you guys. Have a great day.